the intelligences that are working in the human constitution and the force that is used by the intelligences, scientists begin to discover the intelligent force that is working in us. The masters of wisdom have once again introduced the functions of the etheric body about 2 centuries ago, and along with them one wonderful master called Samuel Frederick Hahnemann has introduced the truth of the intelligent force that is working in us. Once again he taught us that it is that force that is working in us. It is that force that is making the heart pulsate, the lungs respire, the alimentary canal eliminate, the metabolic system assimilate. And as long as the constitution is natural and normal, intelligent force does its functions naturally and normally. And it distributes the force equally in all the parts of the constitution. And for the facility of distributing it, we have the wires, which we call the electrical wires. You see how the wiring in your house distributes the electric current for the required purposes. How similar wires are used to distribute the power throughout the city and town with electricity, power stations and substations. We have the power stations and substations along the important parts of the country, which we call the cerebrospinal system. And the wires are sent to every village and every nook and corner in the country, and we call them the nerves. Through these nerves, this intelligent force is being sent, and it is properly distributed to conduct its functions. And whenever there is something wrong, you find that there is an alarm signal. When you go to a big workshop or a laboratory or a big industry where there is involved mechanism, everything computerized. Suppose some worker has done something wrong in the office. He has connected one plug wrongly to another pin. Immediately you will find a red light and some sound alarm, so that your attention is attracted. There is something wrong going on and that you are expected to attend. This intelligent force has arranged such centers everywhere in the body. So when there is something wrong, immediately there is an alarm. Suppose while I am lecturing, I am excited and go into the astral plane, do my hands like this while explaining things. Suppose there is a pin just kept erect here on the table, and I do my hand against a pin like this. What happens if pain is not arranged in the constitution? I will allow the skin go away, and again I will do it. Again the skin is injured for a second time. By the end of the lecture, I may find the finger missing. So this intelligent force, wonderfully intelligent, it immediately informs us when I bring the hand to the pin. There is a very painful prick when I bring it. What does that pain mean? It means the intelligent force is talking to me, saying, "Oh fool, there is a pin here." Like that, when there is fire going on, by mistake if I put my hand like that, immediately there is the sensation, and though I am talking something very important to you, the force understands that I am a perfect idiot and asks the nerves to pull the hand away. It is what the poor psychologist calls reflex. He calls it subconscious activity because he is blind. In fact, it knows something which we do not know, and it protects us from being killed. Is it scientific to call it subconscious or supraconscious? If science were not to be against common sense and truth, the psychologist should call the reflexes supraconscious phenomena and not at all subconscious. So there are thousands and thousands of supraconscious phenomena working in us. They know about us more than what we know. Instantaneously they come to know. Suppose when I slip on the street, when I fall forward, these forces bring the hands like this. Before I understand that I am falling, what happens if they are to consult us before they bring the hand like this? The result is a bad fracture, and everything is too late because they are to consult the idiot every day. So they are arranged in such a way that they have no necessity at all to consult the idiot. The father of homeopathy has pointed out something wonderful about this intelligent force. He called it vital force and also the vital dynamics. The ancient scientists called it etheric force. And since we have a body made up of the etheric force that exists on the plane of the nuclear kingdom, and since it knows more about our shape and our activity, it is careful to bring the material of our food and drink to fill into the shape of our body. Otherwise, it would have been a lump of food materials, just as we see some beef placed in the fridge. So, if we want to say hello, we have no hands, we are only a lump of beef. But it remembers our shape. It remembers the shape of every nerve in us and every blood vessel and the chemistry of the liquid of blood, so that the flow of blood is conducted. So this is the second proposition of homeopathy. Then the third proposition is, what happens when there is something wrong in the constitution? What does this intelligent activity does? In what way it warns us? In what way it indicates immediately, instantaneously that there is something wrong? The answer is what we call pain. Many people question why God produced pain. God never produced pain. God made creation. Man produced pain to himself. Unless I hit my hand against the table, there is no pain. What is the use of my hitting the hand against the table and asking each of you why God produced pain? What does he mean by it? He only means that we should not hit hand at the table. For this reason, he has given us another great weapon, great light, which we call common sense. When we use common sense, we don't hit our hand at the table. But unfortunately, we do not use it so commonly as we have to use. That's why Helena Petrovna-Blavatsky remarks in a humorous way that it is wrongly called common sense because it is rarely used. We can call it common sense when we use it commonly. When we use it rarely, we should call it rare sense. That is what she remarks about common sense. But God expects us to use it because he has given us common sense free of cost. It is a free gift given to us, and he is happy when we use it. So, what is the meaning of pain? The meaning of pain is to indicate that we have done something wrong. We have hit the hand against the table. We have misbehaved with something. It may be with food, drink, sleep, work, sex, or intelligence. Any intelligence. That then we have pain to indicate not to continue the same misbehavior. But the poor fellow, the human being, believes that pain is to punish, because the human creature has the habit of punishing one another. He understands nature also in his own foolish and idiotic way, because man cannot understand things more than what a man can understand. Since man believes in punishing, man believes that nature punishes, and also God punishes. It is the awful psychological limitation and ignorance of the human being to believe that God is a devil to punish us. If at all there is a God, he is making us breathe. He is making our heart pulsate. unless we propose to believe that we are making our heart work. If you ask me, who is making your heart work? I may answer, a cardiologist is taking care of my heart. That means I am a perfect idiot. So, there is immediately pain, which is the result of misbehavior. The functions are distorted or disturbed. Before that, the functions are natural. So, if you want to treat a patient homeopathically, what you have to study is not the names of diseases. Suppose a person like Krishnamacharya comes to you and you can ask, what do you suffer from? What is your trouble? The fellow answers, I am having appendicitis. Note down on the paper. And then you can ask, next, what is your trouble? He says, angina. What more? He says, tonsillitis. What more? He says, hemorrhoids. What more? He says, my liver is very bad. You got an information for a full page, which is as useless as anything. Not even a single line of this information is useful to you as a homeopath. Because when you ask for information, he has given you the names of diseases, which are false. If you take a radiography of the internal parts of the body, do you find the name appendicitis in the photograph? Or the liver trouble? Or tonsillitis? These are some technical nonsense which we use. What is required by a homeopath is the distortions of natural functions. You are expected to observe the patient in a double way. One is you should allow him to speak and listen to it.
Okay.
But at the same time, you should listen to how he speaks and how he behaves and how he talks. So, what he speaks is a part of the report. How he speaks is the more important part of the report. How he smiles and what points he gets irritated and when he is restless. By talking what he is angry and by narrating what type of incidents he goes into weeping and sobbing. This is the information you require. What does this indicate? Understand this as the screen of a cinema or a TV where you find the number of distortions in his behavior. And then what is your next purpose? It is not to break the TV, because this is not the patient. There is the satellite there or the transmitting station of TV where you have to consult and suggest to them to produce a more sensible thing, news and cinema. So when the patient says he has pain here, it is not your business to give him some medicine to kill the pain. If he says he is constipated, it's not your purpose to give him some wonderful purgative. That is what exactly I mean by breaking the TV. An insane person was asked to engage himself at the TV and he saw in the cinema two people fighting with swords. Immediately he took a chair and broke the TV. And the reason was, he said, the fellows are fighting, I had to kill them. That is what is called the process of pain killing in medicine. The system of producing pain is very pious. It is only to indicate that there is something wrong. What happens if you use medicine to kill the pain? Hahnemann questions us about this point. When you are in a big fortress, as scientifically built as the human constitution, and when you are appointed as the ruler of the kingdom, suppose there are messengers to bring you message that enemies are entering into the fortress. Suppose you do not allow them to speak, you shut their mouth and kill them and throw them away. Kill the messengers. What happens? The same thing happens to the fellow who kills the pain when there is disease. You are killing the messenger and you will be killed by the enemy. So such a process for 10 years or 12 years or 15 years, daily using medicines against headache, toothache, stomachache, etc., leads directly to the grave in the name of cancer, or some mysterious disease which could not be diagnosed. The incurable state occurs at the end of 10 years or 15 years or 20 years of such wrong treatment, daily using medicines to kill our troubles. And when the incurable state comes to us, we are unscientific enough to call it an incurable disease. What comes last is not a disease, but it is one of the forms of the incurable condition, which we unscientifically call by the name of one disease. For example, cancer or gangrene or ascites, that is hydrothorax. Even though we name the diseases, they are not diseases, but they are the incurable stages at the end of a continuous defaultation of medicines. Suppose there is a dead body, a person is dead, and someone asks why he does not speak. If I say that he is suffering from a disease called, is it true? I may call it a disease, but he is gone. Something has happened after which we cannot do anything back. That is what we call diseases like cancer or gangrene or hydrothorax. So, the next basic principle Hahnemann gives us is study the patient not only according to what he complains, but more importantly about how he complains and what things he remembers and what things he ignores. How he speaks today, how he was speaking 10 years ago if you know him, how he sleeps during the present months, how he was sleeping previously, and how he responds to the emotional talks and conversations, how he was responding previously, and temperamentally how he is now, and how he was previously temperamentally. What is the difference and what is the distortion in the temperament? If you know the fellow for 10 years or 20 years, you can make an estimate of these things. Otherwise, you can consult the wife or son or brother or father so that you may gather the information of how he was and how he is. That is the guess taking you are expected to do. And this gives you a real clue to understand how to help him cure himself. That is, how to use the agency of medicinal substance in its minimum possible dose, enough to encourage his intelligent force working in him, enough to give a prop and a fillip and give a hand to the force that is struggling against the disorder in the body. Immediately the intelligent force picks up, does what it can do on a permanent basis, because it is not the medicine that is curing, but it is the same force which was protecting and making his organs function hitherto. Now you are consulting the same force with medicine, and you are giving the due respect and proper importance to the gentleman who is living inside, and asking him with a medicine, can I do something for you? Instead of throwing medicines like stones against the fellow who is living inside. So, this is another basic principle given in homeopathy. There are many basic principles that are wonderful, but the time allotted is limited. In fact, it is a subject for a continuous 2 months course. In India, I gather few people from the villages during the vacation seasons, teach them the basic principles of homeopathy for 2 months, and then I permit them to work in our clinics for 1 year, and after 1 year, once again, I will take a 2 months advanced course, and then allow them to go into the villages and open their own centers, where they stimulate the inhabitants of the villages to form their own center and develop into their own clinic. And like that, there are more than 126 big clinics working since 15 years till today. So, one more basic principle I will find out before the stipulated time is finished. I will give you the reason why the system is called homeopathy. When you are having high temperature, the body is hot. Then if you apply ice the body becomes cold, a little bit less of temperature. If the body is cold and lacking in temperature, you apply hot water bag and cover him with rugs. The temperature is raised by 1 degree or 2 degrees. This is one method of treatment. This is what is called antibody. When it is cold, apply heat and fight out cold. When you are in South Africa or South India, when it is too hot, apply cold and fight out heat. This is the method. When you are having acidity, too much of acids, select chemicals that counteract acids and make medicines called anti-acids. Eat and the acidity will go away. This is one method. And we are using this method at least for about 300 years. People suffer from constipation. They take laxatives and it is okay the next day. Again the third day they are constipated. Fourth day once again the purgative is taken. So every alternate day the purgative is taken. The constipation is cured not to the patient but to the pharmacist who has prepared the medicine, because he is sure that you have to purchase lifelong. You see, you are medicine addicted and you are doctor addicted. So the doctor is sure of your addiction. The pharmacist is sure of your getting immune to the medicine. And luckily to the doctor and pharmacist, there comes a day when you have to take the laxative daily. So the pharmacist is more lucky. He is cured more and more. And after some time you have to take 2 tablets instead of 1. That means the pharmacist is cured more. This is the result of antibody. Why? There are the basic differences between a living organism and a non-living object, which we basically fail to notice. The one thing, non-living, so-called, and the other living or biological being. When it is cold, if you touch a metallic substance, it is cold. When it is, but it is the opposite in the case of a living being or biological organism. When it is cold outside, your body is hotter than what it was normally. When it is too hot outside, your body produces perspiration. It is colder than what it was normally. Understand the fundamental difference? The environment affect the non-living bodies directly and they affect the living organisms indirectly. You will find the action of environment here. When there is heat, they are absorbing the heat. When it is cold, they are cold. But here, you do not find the action. As long as the body is, the organism is living, until it became a corpse, you will find only reaction and not only action. That is, when there is cold, the intelligent force reacts against the cold and protects you by producing more calories of heat. And when it is too hot outside, it removes some of the existing